This is a video how I changed my TCM or transmission control module on my Jaguar X-Type. I looked for a few videos on YouTube, but I couldn't find one that actually showed it very well, so I thought I'd do one myself because they are quite common. The problems you'll usually get are obviously cruise control not available, and the big one is gearbox fault. The code that came with mine was P1643. It's usually caused by water getting in. Wasn't the case for me, but that's what usually. This bit here where mine's holding the water, that fails quite a lot, and the water gets in there, which is underneath it, or through the cabin filter is the other way. That's what it looks like, and mine, it says a 2.5 litre, so make sure you get the same like for like what you've got already, and it fits sort of in that position by underneath the glove box to the side, up behind some wiring loom. It's a fiddly job, but quite an easy job. So the module there, and it's got the carrier on the top. The top is just a tongue, and the bottom's a 10mm nut over a post with a little wiring plug on the carrier itself, and there's a bigger piece of wiring on the actual TCM afterwards. I removed the trim from the bottom of the door and the little quarter panel there, and pulled the carpet back just so I've got some more access. That might actually not be necessary, but this is, you know, a video of how I did it. You only need a 10mm socket, because that's going to do you the 3 bolts that you would need to undo for the there's 2 on the TCM, 1 on the carrier, and obviously there's a 10mm as well on the battery terminal. So first things first, obviously, was to disconnect any power, so I don't blow myself up basically. Just tuck that fella out of the way. I recorded this on a phone, and I tried to get as close as I could to it, because it's in such an awkward place. I found that if I got the camera in the right position, I couldn't actually see it because it was tucked away the wires, or I had my hand in the way and stuff. It was really awkward to video it, which is probably why there's no decent videos of this on YouTube. I've got a little handout, or a little portable light there, so I can see what I'm doing up there, and also because it's got a nice big heavy battery on it, it held the carpet back. So that's the TCM up there that you can see, or behind that, that's the carrier or bracket, whatever you want to call it, and that's the plug, the first plug, which is on the carrier, you need to take off. So you have to squeeze that in on that little latch there and then pull it out, and it is quite fiddly. And you can see the nut above that there, that's for the carrier, which we need to take off. But trying to get a phone into that to see that any closer than that was almost impossible. But this was quite fiddly, pushing that little clip in and then pulling it out. It just didn't want to come out for a little while, but eventually it does. And obviously then I've got to try and get the nut out afterwards. But the good thing is they're all just a 10mm socket, and I just use a little 4-inch extension on the socket. I didn't use a wrench or anything. It was, none of the nuts were up that tight, to be honest. Right, so that's the plug out of the way, and then got to undo that nut there, and that then releases the carrier, because the top side of the carrier is just a little small tongue that goes into a little slot, and then once you get that out, you can then pull that off of the post from the bottom, and then the bracket or carrier, whatever you want to call it, will then just swing across and then out. It's probably the most fiddliest part of the job, getting the actual bracket out of the way, because there's so much sort of wiring and stuff. You also don't want to snag any of the wiring to get that you don't want it to damage anything getting it out, so it's quite fiddly. You can see that's where the nut is. It's behind that wire, which I was trying to show you, but I just couldn't really get the camera in the right position to see me undoing it. I tried my hardest, but it was just behind that thick little set of wires there, so you just could not see it. So now the carrier's out of the way, you can see what I circled it there. You can see that's one nut there, and there's another nut on a post up there, but you can't quite see that because I just couldn't get the camera up there, or the phone. Couldn't even get the phone up there. But there's one at each end of that. On the actual carrier, there's two nuts on the side. They stay on the actual carrier or bracket, whatever you want to call it. You don't actually need to touch them. So there's the three nuts just removed, and they were very easy to take out. And now the TCM itself, you just now pull that over the posts, and then just a bit of jiggery pokery and wiggle it, and it will then come out free of the wiring, very much like the bracket does. It's just fiddly. Now this bit I couldn't see how you got this plug off, and it was only when there was no videos on YouTube anywhere, and I couldn't take it off. And after a while I found out all you had to do was just push that little white lever over, which unlocks it. I didn't know which way that was going because there was no one showing me anywhere how to do it, so I'm sure that will be a benefit to somebody. So that's that out. And then, so a lot of people seem to say that they get water ingress, especially through the cabin filter. Gets blocked with leaves and stuff, and then it just accumulates and soaks water, and it all drips through. And to split this, you just basically just pull those four little lugs up, very flimsy metal, and then the lid will just come off of that. And then inside you've got a circuit board with 3 Phillips screws on it, and again you just then undo these 3 Phillips screws, and you may well find you've got some water on the underside of that. Mine didn't have any water ingress at all, but mine still failed. Refit obviously is a reversal of the taking that out. If you're in the UK, I would recommend that you got Mark Burton for your parts for X-Types. He's in Leeds. That's where I got mine from. He's good as price as anyone else, and you get a decent service, and more importantly you can trust that you're going to get the part. So hope that helps you, and I'll see you on another one soon. Cheers.